In this video you will try to solve detective riddles and puzzles. Only the real Sherlock Holmes will be able to solve all of them correctly. Be sure to share in the comments how many riddles you solved correctly. An archaeologist has spent several years searching for lost ancient treasures. He finally found them and happily began to look at the old coins. Each of them had a date, the 68th year BC. When the archaeologist saw this inscription, he was furious and very upset. Why? It is now 2021st year of our era, because we are counting the years from the birth of Jesus. And everything that happened before that, we call the time before our era. But then none of the people believed that they lived before our era, since everyone used a different chronology system. Accordingly, 68 BC could not be written on the coin. It means that the coins are fake and someone was already in this place before the archaeologist. An elderly man lived in an old house on the outskirts of the village. One morning, when the postman brought a fresh newspaper, no one opened it for him. He suspected something was wrong and called the police. When they arrived at the scene, they found that the man had been killed. 3 people came under suspicion: the postman, the cleaner and the man's neighbor. The postman stated that he delivered newspapers to the man once a week. Last week, when he was there, everything was fine. The cleaner said that she also comes to clean once a week, and last week, when she was there, she did not see anything suspicious. The neighbor said that he went on vacation abroad for a month and returned only last night, so he had not communicated with the neighbor at all for a long time. The police, after listening to all the suspects, realized who lied and was somehow involved in the murder, who it was and why. The police noticed that the victim's house was quite dirty and there were cobwebs hanging in places. This means that the cleaner has not been in this house for a long time, which means that she lied and was somehow involved in the crime. A man ran to the police station and said that he had just been robbed in the middle of the street. The police asked the man to describe the details of what happened. The victim said that he went to the bank and carried a rather large amount of money in his suitcase. Suddenly, a masked robber ran out of the alley, hit the man in the face, grabbed a suitcase and disappeared. The police clarified whether the black eye was the result of a blow from a robber. The victim confirmed this. A few minutes later, detectives arrested the man himself and said that he had staged this robbery. Why did they decide that? You probably noticed that the man who came to the police station wears glasses. However, if the robber hit him in the eye area, then the glasses should have been broken or cracked. This means that the man himself staged the robbery in order to receive compensation from the insurance company. The director of a large company was found dead in his office. The police, who arrived at the scene, found that the victim had been poisoned. Someone put poison in the glass of a man who was standing on the table. 3 employees of the company came under suspicion: a secretary, a cleaner and a deputy director. The secretary said that she went into the victim's office 2 hours before the police arrived and brought the director coffee and a glass of water. At that moment, she did not notice anything suspicious. The cleaner said she went into the principal's office about an hour before the police arrived, as the principal spilled coffee on the floor and called her to clean up. The deputy director said that he had not entered his boss's office that day at all. They talked on the phone about 3 hours before the police arrived. Detectives took fingerprints from all the suspects, as well as from the glass containing the poison. Take a close look at the results of the examination and tell me which of the suspects is involved in the crime. If you were careful enough, you realized that the fingerprints of 4 people, including all the suspects, were found on the glass. The secretary and the cleaner could touch the glass according to their testimony. However, the deputy director's fingerprints look suspicious. If he claims that he did not enter the director's office that day, then how could his fingerprints be on the glass with poison? Which means he's somehow involved in the murder. A man came to the newspaper office and introduced himself as a scientist. He said that he had finally created a time machine. Thanks to her, he can communicate with several people from the past: Albert Einstein, Sherlock Holmes, and Leonardo da Vinci. The journalist did not have a good knowledge of physics, but he immediately realized that the scientist was lying. How did he figure it out? Even if the scientist managed to create a time machine, he could only communicate with those people from the past who really existed. Sherlock Holmes is a fictional character who never lived. So the journalist realized that the scientist was definitely lying. John owed the mafia a large sum of money. He knew that the bandits would try to kill him. That's why John stayed at home and didn't go out. However, a few days later, John felt unwell and called an ambulance. An hour later, the doorbell rang. When John opened the door, he saw the doctor standing on the threshold. At the same moment, he slammed the door and tried to call the police. What scared John so much? The fact is that John called an ambulance. The doctor who came to John had a special mirror on his head, which is worn only by otolaryngologists or simply by Laura. Paramedics do not come with this instrument on their heads. Which means that the doctor who came to John is a killer in disguise who is going to kill him. The police were looking for a criminal who was engaged in counterfeiting money. Detectives detained 3 suspects and asked each of them to show the bills they have in their wallet. After looking carefully at the contents of the suspects' wallets, the police immediately realized which of them was counterfeiting money. Who is it and why? A $25 bill can be seen in the wallet of one of the suspects. It is he who is a fake coin dealer, since such a denomination simply does not exist. The real bills are $1, $5, $10, $20, $50, and $100. Prison guards learned from an anonymous source that one of the 3 new prisoners was going to arrange an escape in the near future, but they did not know who exactly. Each prisoner could choose one hobby for himself, which he could do in his free time and get all the necessary materials for this. The first prisoner asked for books. The second one said that he would play the guitar and asked for an instrument. The third inmate said he would paint and asked for 2 cans of blue paint. After that, the guards quickly established who was going to escape, who it was and why. The guards realized that the third prisoner was going to make an escape. He intends to dye his clothes blue to look like the guards and thus try to leave the prison. You went on vacation to a distant island. Unfortunately, it was at this time that an earthquake and a volcanic eruption occurred there. You are in your room on the 10th floor of the hotel. There are only 2 ways to leave the hotel. Either jump out the window or exit through the emergency exit. But the emergency exit leads directly into the river, the water in which is poisonous, and there are crocodiles there. Your room has an inflatable boat and a rope 2 meters long. How do you get out and stay alive? If you try to get out through the window with a rope, you will most likely not survive, since you are on the 10th floor, and the rope is only 2 meters long. You will have to jump from the height of the 8th floor, which is extremely dangerous. If you choose the second method, you will most likely stay alive, because if the water in the river is poisonous, it means that all the crocodiles there have long since died, and you can safely swim across the river in an inflatable boat. The brave knight was captured by the evil king. In the room where the knight was, there are 3 doors and a small window. The knight cannot escape through the window, as it is too narrow. The evil king was very fond of puzzles, so he offered the knight a deal. Only one of the 3 doors leads to freedom. There's just a stone wall behind all the others. A knight can only open one door. What should a knight do, and how should he choose the right door? To solve this mystery, you need to use resourcefulness. First, the knight needs to open the window. Because of this, a draft is formed in the room. The air will pass through the cracks of the door behind which the path to freedom. This way the knight will be able to escape. The cleaning lady found his wife shot dead in Mr. Wilson's house. She immediately called Mr. Wilson and said, "Come quickly, your wife is dead." The cleaner also called the police. Upon arriving at the crime scene, the detective questioned the cleaner and then went outside. At that moment, the owner, Mr. Wilson, drove up to the house. He ran out of the car and shouted, "Who shot my wife?" Some time after that, detectives arrested Mr. Wilson. Why did they think he was the killer? As with most detective puzzles, you need to listen carefully to the conditions in order to give the correct answer. It was inattention that failed Mr. Wilson. Getting out of the car, he shouted, "Who shot my wife?" But the fact is that when the cleaner called Mr. Wilson, she only said that his wife was dead, without specifying how. Don't forget to write in the comments how many riddles you answered correctly. Also subscribe to the channel, click on the bell to keep up to date with new videos, and of course leave your comments under this video.